tell everyone a little bit about what uni you went to, what course you did, and just a little bit about your project. We'll start with Valentina.
Okay, so yeah, hi, I'm Valentina, and I'm still at the University of Brighton. I will graduate in September, so my course is a one-year course from September to September. But yeah, I mean, we still had this kind of like work in progress exhibition show with the undergrads who graduated like in July. So yeah, my project is called Deschooling the Education System, or Deschooling Education. And my course is Sustainable Design. So I was thinking about doing something with education and looking into, because I thought, okay, the source of everything is how we get educated and how we treat the environment and stuff like that. And well, I cannot really do anything about how children interact with their parents or something, but I can do something about the education system or something like that. And then I looked into the UN Sustainable Development Goals and stuff like that. And I thought, there is two last things that they get mediated. So like children get mediated in school, but actually that's not the case. It's not what they get communicated or mediated. It's about how they get it mediated and communicated. And then I had a look into alternative pedagogy and unschooling, especially unschooling, because I thought that's a great alternative about just like children develop their own interests, they develop their own individuality and stuff like that. Of course, there is not all good about that. So I did a lot of research about unschooling. I did some interviews with people who unschool and home educate their children, because like in Austria, for example, it's not a thing. You have to go to school. There is no option. So for me, this was really new. And I also looked into the education system in the UK especially, and of course, I know the Austrian education system, so kind of like they're not completely similar, but pretty much similar, I'd say, like that. Then I had a look into learning and playing. So learning through playing in a playful way and in a fun way, and how to get this kind of like spirit of learning back into school, because at school it's just not working with what we expect children to know and the skills that we want to develop for a sustainable future. And with the way children get educated at school, it's just, there is something wrong, because we're still working with this old system, with this capitalistic like system. And of course, with COVID-19, suddenly everybody had to home educate. Suddenly everything went out of school back to home. I mean, it was kind of like distance learning, because they still had the guidance from the teachers and from the school. But they had to adapt and they had to learn differently. And this was a great opportunity. I mean, of course, it's nothing I planned or anything, but it was an advantage for my project, let's say it like that. And also with Black Lives Matters, this opened a lot of discussions about racism at school. And there were a lot of online talks about how to make school more equal, how to make it more fair, because during COVID, it also showed that there were struggles with families. Some families didn't have internet, they didn't have a computer. It was just hard to connect, and it actually showed how unequal the education system is. And then I really started to focus on that. And now, together with a teacher to be, so because I'm not a teacher, I never had anything to do with education. This is actually super new to me. I'm now developing this kind of game or tool, which can be used in a schooled and home educated, so unschooled environment, and which is kind of like, deschooling the school system a little bit. So we're still developing that, but I think it's going to be fun.
I like your project because, like you said, this is a particular time where the whole world's being shook up through sort of civil rights movements, those sort of things happening again, and also COVID. So it's like a perfect time to do something like that. Sophia, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you did?
I just finished a 5-year degree at Edinburgh College of Art, which was a mixed degree. It was a fine art degree, but it was half history of art and half practical art, and I was in painting. And yeah, it's been a really weird time doing my degree show online. And it was like a weird time as well, like leaving the studio, because we had just finished our dissertations, and it felt like a time that we were all like in the studio and really starting to like experiment and really think about what we wanted to do for our degree show. So it's been like a real like test of like shifting like artistic production and thinking about now. I think I've thought a lot about like, I don't know, the purpose of what I'm like making. I think it's been a weird time. Like I think all of our worlds have kind of shrunk quite a lot. So it's been more of like a maybe more of like a an inward looking way of like creating artwork. But yeah, it's been a weird time.
It's such a shame, just you saying you've been there for 5 years and it to sort of end like this. You know what I mean? You wanted that sort of nice ending with all the people you've worked with and spent time with. And that's what degree shows are, aren't they? It's sort of a final culmination of all your work. And that's why I kind of wanted to, like we're doing now, mix students from different universities, because a great joy of degree shows is meeting loads of people, showing each other your work, and forming connections that you wouldn't normally. It is a shame. I mean, some of the online stuff, I mean, I don't know how I came across your guys' work. I've looked at so much stuff, but some of them were good, but some of them really weren't. And some universities just didn't even do a show at all. You know what I mean? Some did like massive effort and it was like you were almost there, and some were like, I don't know. I think that's a massive shame. Sophia, tell us a bit about your final year project.
So I was really interested in kind of the facades of the world that we inhabit. So I was looking, I think I was thinking a lot about the way that we experience kind of the world and kind of the art experience, and looking at like sensory experiences, and looking at touch and how we like inhabit a skin, and also clothing, and like architecture is like more of a broader thing. But I was interested in this like collection of clothing that had been handed down to me from my grandmother, and I had this like emotional kind of connection to this collection of clothing. And I was thinking in like an archival, I had like an archival impulse, I think, and so that's kind of where my project started. And I wanted to kind of think about how I could display that, and maybe like understand my emotional connection with it a little bit more. So I think it was probably like, it started off like looking at that relationship that I had with my grandmother, but then maybe looked into, kind of opened up into broader themes of like memory and map making and ways of navigating the world. Yeah,
it was really cool. It was really nice to see. I wanted to kind of share your work with each other, but the emails wouldn't let me do that and fit it all in. But yeah, that's kind of why I brought you both together, because you were both talking about sort of personal development, and I mean, how interesting the mapping would be if we followed Valentina's idea of people following maybe their passions and interests and what actually drove them from the start. But yeah, it's also important to look back, I think, at what has shaped us to this point, because then maybe we can start to decide which way we want to go and whether we want to stay on certain paths and move on others. I mean, Valentina, would you, with the sort of thing of creating education more around a sustainable future, what sort of things would you like seriously change about schooling?
Well,
should be taken.
what would I seriously change? Well, I think I would not completely get rid of grades, but get rid of like grading, because this is a lot of pressure and unnecessary pressure. I mean, it's good in some way, so maybe at the end of the year or something, but all throughout the year, because it feels like children are only learning to get good grades, and they don't even know what they're learning. They don't even understand like what they can use all this knowledge for. And also including the community more. So it's not only the teacher who knows stuff, it's also people out there who actually know stuff and know probably more. And that, yeah, maybe teachers should also acknowledge that a little bit more. So if they are not experts in something, then they could maybe get something from outside or somebody from outside and just, yeah, let them explain. Like, I mean, sometimes you do these excursions and you have like people explaining who are experts in this field to the children. And this is kind of like where they really get the knowledge from, because it's an experience and it's somebody who, yeah, just does the thing hands on. I don't know. It's just.
I get what you mean. Like, Sophia, where did you go to school in the UK?
Yeah, no, I did, but I had like a very different school experience. Like, I think my primary school was very like it was like a very humanist school. So it was like no uniform and no religion, and like a big emphasis on art and drama and music. But then I went to a secondary school that was like all girls and religious, and it was like very academic, and I found that I struggled probably quite a lot in terms of like not being like being in like bottom maths set and bottom science set, which isn't encouraging to be like to have that like set system as well. And I think it probably wasn't great for like confidence, and I think I found a lot of like pleasure being in the art department and kind of like working maybe a little bit more by myself. But it's strange because I think of other ways that I think are more valuable, like in terms of learning. Like I was really like keen at playing chess, and I think that's quite a mathematical, like logical game. But then I was like really bad at maths in the classroom, but like played chess. I was like played for the England girls chess team at one point, and I was like really keen on that. So it's strange that it's like, there should maybe be more like hands-on, like different approaches to learning.
Yeah, more than one way, because this is also like a problem, as this is what we try to achieve with this game that we're doing right now. So there are different ways of learning something and different ways of achieving something, and it depends on, as you said, I mean, chess is a really mathematical thing, but then you fail in mathematics, and it's just a different approach that you take, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's really encouraging. Like,
was whether you went to school in the UK, because I wanted to see like if you had a similar experience to me in the way that, for example, I mean, Valentina, you can speak phenomenal English, whereas a lot of British people cannot speak another language. Whereas we sort of in the UK will learn languages and you'll get that grade. So you'll be like, I've got a B in French. You cannot speak French. You know what I mean? You just learn how to memorize this thing.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of pointless in a way.
Yeah.
And it's schooling in that way, like you say, with the grades, it like, or if you're bad at maths in like an academic sense of learning, and you're just labeled bad at maths, even though you're really good at chess, or you're labeled good at French, even though you cannot speak a word of it, you just have to take one test.
Yeah.
That's very ineffective. And I think a lot of people then, you leave school and you don't feel like you do have the choices, the options to do something different.
Yeah, you're not prepared for the real world, kind of. It's just, you were in this bubble of your school system, and then, go and find something you're interested in. But how? I mean...
That's so interesting, Sofia, that you went to that kind of school, firstly. Like, it sort of, in the way that Valentina's done her project. Why did you change? Like, it's probably just parents, sort of.
Yeah, no, it was like a real, like, the more I think about it, it was a real like difference. I don't know. I think I really wanted to go to that secondary school, and I think maybe that, like, when I got there, like maybe I wasn't like so involved in things that I had been at primary school. But yeah, just thinking as well about like learning through like making as well, through like practical, through like making mistakes. That's like a real big part of like art learning, I think. And I've done like a lot of teaching at summer school camps as an art teacher. And I think there's it's so usually for kids who come over to England to learn English. And it's really, I think that's like really, it's fascinating to see how they're like really engaged by like practical, like hands-on learning, and that kind of helps them with the language. And I feel like I often learn kind of more from them and about myself when I have been teaching. So it's interesting thinking about children, like development and stuff like that.
Is that something you thought about with your mapping? Like, was it just about, did you connect it to development at all, and how, you know, when you map back, you can see different ways people might change or be affected?
Yeah, I think so. I think with the mapping things, I think at the time I was like reading this book, Image of the City by Kevin Lynch, and he writes about like this like essential impulse that we need to kind of make our space legible and our surrounding space legible. And I think I was making connections with that and memory and like emotional memory. So yeah, I think so. Maybe like mapping out the past and using that as like a tool to like navigate the future somehow. But I don't know. I think the mapping thing, I think I was looking at like historical like modes of mapping and charting space, which I was quite interested in and wanted to use that as like a framework to make stuff in, if that makes sense. Yeah. Or to kind of like justify why I'm making it. Well, not justify it, but just to have it as like a restriction, maybe.
Is that very much like your process of it on a creative process anyway?
Yeah, I think so. Quite like a personal like investigation into like the past and relationships that I've had in the past. But I think my process as well is very much tied into like materials that I'm using, and it has had to be like in lockdown and like finishing a degree, like kind of using materials that I've had at home and like thinking about how I can use them in like it's been quite nice in that way. It's been like more kind of freeing in a way that it's like being away from art school, and kind of like I've kind of liked the challenge of using materials that I've had at home. But I think that is important to like make mistakes and kind of use resources around you in learning.
Have you had a similar experience in that respect, Valentina?
Yes, yeah. Because we also had to build a model for one of the modules that we took, and yeah, there was still like the proper lockdown happening. So with other than the grocery stores, nothing was open. So, and I'm here in student halls, and I don't really have, you know, any tools or anything. So I had to build my model in the kitchen with the stuff that I had there. I mean, it turned out fine, but it was really, like an emergency plan. I don't know.
Are you all there by yourself? Like, have a lot of people left the halls?
Yeah, I mean, I am amongst, I think we're in the whole building, maybe 5 or 4 people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really hard. I think it's interesting to be forced by yourself and try new things, but you've also been sort of robbed of the opportunity to interact with people and get inspiration and ideas.
Yeah. All these idea exchange and inspiration, this is missing a lot. I mean, you cannot get it through Teams or Zoom or anything. It's not the same.
No, it's because often those things come from small little parts of conversations. You'll be having a conversation, then you'll think, oh, I should probably go, and because you've had a new idea. Because even talking about it now, like with the three of us here, it's quite forced with like trying to pick up on what we do, whereas the ideas often come from just normal conversation and from whatever's around.
Definitely.
Where's with some universities, they've talked about maybe doing a actual degree show at some point. Is that something that your universities have talked about, or is that not happening? I mean, it's hard because, for example, the guy I was talking to that was saying that was supposed to be at Central St. Martin's in London. And then it was like, well, how are all these people going to all these people aren't going to hang around London and wait till you do a degree show for them. So, Valentina, you're not necessarily going to be in Brighton forever.
No, I mean, we would have had a degree show in September, but it's going to be online now. So there was, I don't know, around May or something, there was still the possibility that it might happen, but now it died. Now it's going to be online. So yeah.
Yeah, I think same with us. There was like conversations about having a physical degree show in the future, but they haven't really spoken more about that, and I don't really know how that would work as well now, because yeah, as you say, people won't be in Edinburgh. Like, I'm not in Edinburgh at the moment, and to like move work up there and stuff, it would be difficult for a lot of people. But I think that really shows like how I think the traditional art model like needs to change. Like, my whole like art side of like the grading of my degree was based on the degree show, and then you meet so many as you say, you meet so many people at degree show, and you make like networks and form connections with people, and a lot comes from it. So I think that there needs to be a shift that will make it more sustainable and more accessible for the future, because who knows what's going to happen like next year. Like, there needs to be a change of how things work in the education model.
You hope that they find it'd be nice to have a middle point, because I think it's obviously still a great thing to do, but yeah, having a way where maybe you have some stuff online in some way. I don't know, online just doesn't feel right for me right now. But it's true. I mean, you don't want people to miss out. And also in the future now, like, what's going to happen with offices and stuff, people from working from home. I think a lot of places will just say like, well, we're not paying for this rent or whatever. We're just going to do it. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen with museums and galleries, even though a lot of them haven't reopened. And I think a lot will never reopen, which is a thing. So yeah, it's something we definitely need to think about, especially I think there's probably going to be a second wave in the winter. So it's all looking a bit bleak, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think there will be a middle ground for sure. Maybe it's like you have the opportunity to go to the physical exhibition, but you also have the opportunity to have the online exhibition, because right now, for me, for example, with the online exhibition, it was nice because I could send the link to my family and friends at home, and they could see the stuff, what I'm doing. And before, we had a work in progress exhibition in January or February, and nobody could see what I was actually doing. I could only send them that sheet pictures of my stuff, which didn't make any sense to them. So yeah, kind of like, yeah, positive and a negative side, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an option moving forward. I mean, what was your plans like for finishing? Like, what was your grant? Because everyone, when you're graduating, you kind of get a little map of what might be next. After your degree show, what was that going to look like before this? Or do you not know? There's also a lot of people that have no idea, and that's fine as well.
I didn't really have much of a set plan. I'd applied to a couple of master's programs in Europe. Like, I kind of did that at Christmas time, like really desperate, like, oh, what am I going to do after I graduate? But now I've decided to like decline those offers, because I think that maybe it's been quite nice to kind of think about I don't know, to work by myself. I think I need to like really think about if I want to do that, because it's quite a big commitment to like move abroad and to study when I've already been studying for 5 years. So I don't know, taking some time out, like looking for jobs, which is quite difficult at the moment. I've been looking into like art therapy jobs. I think there's a lot out there at the moment for that, and that would be quite nice, as well as like an educational like way of learning and teaching. that might be.
You were saying about when you helped those kids out, you sort of learn a bit about yourself as well. Be quite, and I think art therapy would be a fantastic thing for a lot of people at this time. I mean, you hope that people in isolation have been trying all kinds of new things and shaking it up like that. But it can go either way, can't it? You know, things like this can force people to try new things, you know, go out running or, you know, start painting or something. But it can also force people into comfort. You know what I mean? The world's ending. I'm just going to get in bed and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
I've done a bit of both. Or if I've been guilty of a bit of that, I'll be honest. I mean, yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot, because I was supposed to be traveling around Canada, and it that just ended. Like, so my big moment, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm finally gonna, you know, quit my job, and then the world was like, no, you're not. You're gonna stay. You're gonna stay in the UK.
So, did you already quit your job and everything was planned, or
left my job, and then I got to Canada for 6 days.
Oh, no.
And I was with my mum, because she was going to go on holiday for a bit and then come back, and everything started to lock down. I didn't really have a plan. You know, I'm the type of guy, more just wing it and, you know, work it out as I go. But like with everything locking down and no one on the streets, I was like, you can't really wing it when there's no one work off. So I found a cheap flight back, and I was like, we'll give it another go whenever it happens. So yeah, it's been disappointing, but like I came back at first and I was like super motivated. Like I did loads of work for different projects and different people. And then I did get hit by kind of the doom and gloom, because when you're running off fumes, sort of, you then crash a bit, and I was a bit like, oh, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I don't have a plan for the future really. It's quite hard, isn't it? Because with like, if there's going to be a second wave, there's going to be this and that. What do you plan? Like, is there any point?
Yeah. It's the same for me. I have no idea if I want to go back to Austria or if I should stay here. I'm sorry.
Right.
That's always on Tuesday. Yeah, it's as you said. I mean, if I go back to Austria, I could stay with my family, and I wouldn't be alone. Kind of like if there is a second wave, and if I'm here in the UK, I would immediately need to find a job, and a flat, and everything. And then if there is a second wave, what's the point of staying here? Because I also want to see a little bit of the country, since I couldn't see anything now. And yeah, it's hard to plan. I have no plans. I mean, I'm applying for jobs here in the UK, and I'm applying for jobs back at home. And I will just see what happens.
Yeah. What kind of jobs are you applying for?
Well, I was an interior designer before, so I think right now it's quite easy to get back into the interior design field, even though with my master's right now, I'm kind of thinking, is this really what I still want to do? But I mean, it's a job. And of course, I'm looking for companies who are into sustainability and systems change and stuff like that. So yeah, but also, yeah, kind of like companies who are looking into systems thinking and creative thinking and stuff like that. I was also thinking about maybe publishing. So if this kind of tool or game that we are developing there turns out to be nice, I could maybe work for a game development company or something like that, and also present our ideas. Yeah, well, let's see. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's really hard. Like I was looking at jobs at the minute, but there's a few. But I think with Sofia, like you're saying, you're applying for a master's, I think that's probably a good idea to pull out from, because also you probably would have been working from home, or like, you know what I mean? A lot of campuses and stuff are talking about not opening again for like till next year. Imagine you go on this master's and you're on the master's sort of like, I did it, but I never actually went to the practice. I think that would have been a shame. And I think a lot of jobs and stuff I'm looking at, they say you start from working from home, which would be really weird, starting a new job from home. I don't really works. I've just been. I mean, I've got a green screen, and I've been like, I do some like comedy related stuff as well. So I've been trying to do stuff like that, but I just feel like an absolute lunatic in my room, trying to do stuff. And yeah, it's so weird. It's honestly so weird. I really am craving the opportunity to work with people. Like, that's the definite. I've realized I'm the type of person that feeds off the energy of other people. I mean, introverts are probably having an amazing time and are in their own world, but I think I've learned a lot about myself in that I'm not that type of person. I need the people and I need interactions. I can't work from home. How have you found that? Like, have you learned something about yourselves like that?
Yeah, I learned a lot because I was, especially at the beginning, a lot of friends from here left to go back home. And, like with the lockdown, everybody stayed in their room, everybody stayed in their home. So I was really alone. And I learned a lot about myself and the way I like to work and the way I can achieve something. So, yeah, I think in that way it helped. Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I've had like mixed, I think it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Like I've had like weird times of, I think, really missing like, yeah, like wanting to bounce off people. But it's been great to have like Zoom and Skype and stuff like that. Like it hasn't really been the same, but it's been nice to have like conversations like virtually. But I've really missed that about like the art school, about having just like those like small conversations that are maybe outside of tutorials and crits, that I think maybe, yeah, you get the like an idea or someone says something and then you really want to like explore that. And but then I think I've realized that I've actually maybe enjoyed being a little bit like by myself, like doing like making work, because I think maybe I don't know, I felt like that I haven't been so like distracted in many ways. I have been distracted in a lot of ways. I don't know, it's a weird like mixture of a lot of feelings, but I think that I've enjoyed like actually making work. It's been a bit of like a distraction as well from like thinking about what's going on in the world, to actually like being a bit like hands-on and like making something. Yeah, I don't know, kind of like going out
and look at all the weird stuff or interesting turns people's lives took during lockdown. You know, I always think of it. So I studied politics at university, and you'd often get questions like, it'd be of a historical context, like what was the impact of George Bush becoming president or something like that. And I always think now, in like 10, 15 years, those students are going to get some crazy questions like, Donald Trump was president, then Kanye West took over. What impact did that have? Or the whole world stopped because of coronavirus. What's the economic impact? Or, you know what I mean? Or Valentina managed to unschool the whole world. What was the impact? Stuff like that. I think it's going to be so interesting in like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully it can be interesting because life would have gone back to normal. Hopefully we're not like, well, we can't reflect on it yet because it's still going on 15 years later. But it's a crazy, crazy time, honestly.
But what I think sometimes when I think like, yeah, in 10, 15 years, those kids, they will learn about it. And in the history books, they at least have a nice date to remember. So 2020, it's quite a easy thing to remember.
That's such a good point. Do you guys think you're going to carry on doing the projects you've done for your sort of, that would have been your degree show? Are they going to be something now that you put to one side, like you finish? Because it can be nice to finish projects sometimes and be like, that was a period of my life. Or is it going to be something that you're going to try and continue into your sort of professional life, let's say?
Well, I think I want to continue on, definitely with the ideas that I've been thinking about for degree show. I'm going to be exhibiting my degree show work, or like work, like hopefully I'm going to be making new work around similar themes for this New Contemporaries exhibition in February at the Royal Academy, Scottish Academy. So hopefully I can make new work for that, and hopefully that will actually happen as well. It feels weird, like thinking about going into an art gallery in the future. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I think I will keep on developing the stuff that I'm doing right now. Like I also got asked from the Global Grad Show, which is in Dubai, to apply with my stuff. So, and this is happening in October. I mean, of course, online, but I mean, it's still a great opportunity. So I think after September, I will definitely keep on developing my stuff, and also translating it into German, because my sister, for example, she's a teacher at a primary school, and another friend of mine, so they would like to actually test this thing in a school. And my friend, or my collaborator, the teacher to be, she will graduate next year, and she will take these ideas and the research that I did right now on into her bachelor thesis, kind of. So I think it's going to develop further. It's not going to land somewhere, like, yeah, just die somewhere in a drawer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously the ideas will develop a bit, and it won't stay the exact same. But that's like the main reason I wanted to sort of do this type of thing, because there's some people who have such great ideas, and it's not their fault. Like, you know, there's so much pressure on young people when you leave university to get a job or do this or do that. That, like, there's no surprise that a lot of people just say, well, I don't know how to, I haven't got funding. You know, funding's a massive thing as well. I haven't got this, I haven't got that. I'm not going to carry that on because it doesn't make sense. I'm going to have to get a job in a bar a lot of the time. And hopefully with the changing of education and schooling, that can be a possibility. People can continue to implement these more into life. I mean, I'm all for changing schooling. That's something we've talked about massively. I don't like, because at my university, like more like sort of classically academic, you'd also get people that are like doing certain subjects, but like, I don't know, that they're learning about like geology or something or something like that, but they don't actually, you know, care about it. I don't know. I feel like there's so many people that don't care because these topics aren't that interesting, and they don't actually continue on into their practical life. You know, you always get the classic like physics and science, and then they end up being a banker, and like those jobs, for example. So I do a lot of like building work and like manual labor as like a way to make money sometimes. And I was talking to a guy that I was working with the other day, and I said, people like you that are so important, that physically build the world. They put the bricks together, they fit it all together, we all use it and live it. There's not a value on these jobs. They're often like low skilled.
Yeah.
Doctors and stuff, which are more skilled, but nowhere near as much money as people who lawyers and bankers and stuff, whose literal job is to accumulate wealth for already really rich people. Like, there's such a wrong emphasis on those sorts of jobs. Like, and all the smart people, you know, all the people that went to Oxford and Cambridge, they're all getting like poached. You know, these are people that might have ideas like you guys, you know, to reimagine the world and to reimagine how we think about it, and notions of memory and how we can use that going forward. Yeah, they're poached to be like, make me loads of money. Me too. And it doesn't trickle down, does it, often?
No. I think that's what I'm really worried about as well with this whole COVID thing, is that like maybe like losing a lot of people who have really creative ideas, and people who won't be able to like navigate or, you know, think about like creative pursuits in that way, because it's not feasible. Just people getting lost in that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too. And also now with me, I mean, I'm a designer, I'm an interior designer, and now I'm looking into education. But, you know, I'm reading all these books and all these articles by educators who wrote about the education system and stuff like that. But actually, I mean, nothing happened. There were already discussions in the 60s, 1960s, and it's still the same. So it's like, I think, yeah, we have to mix and match disciplines to, yeah, get to where we are, and include more, yeah, creative fields and not only science. So like, yeah, give the creative people more chance.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm making this up. This might be completely wrong, and I've made this up. But I swear I was watching something the other day, and there was these guys talking. I think it was quite controversial ideas, but they were talking about how you use the certain modes of wealth generation for the environment. So you almost take I think it was kind of trying to find a middle ground. So you almost take a hit. You don't go like the full sustainable model. You go like wealth creation as well, but then it kind of brings those worlds closer together. And the point they were making was, well, the only way we're going to start to address these problems even a little bit is if we incentivize it for people that are so capitalist. They're so focused on that, which is a really like kind of bullshit idea, because I think you kind of like miss the point on both sides. But it's kind of then an honest truth in the same way. Like, how can we actually get these people fully motivated? And people should be rich off us moving to a greener world. Like that should not be the idea. I mean, there's greenwashing and organizations and everything, but is it going to be the only feasible way? It's like, do we do that, or do we just let it all go? We just say, let's turn it all up to 100 and burn out the world together. It's like,
yeah, it's hard. I don't know. This is why I was like, okay, I'm going to have a look at the younger generation, because for the older generation, it's not too late, but it's just hard to make them understand why it is necessary, or yeah, I don't know. And as you said, Sofia, you can learn a lot from children too. So there is like a possibility when they learn through education, through school, then they can go home and those children, they're like, I learned this at school, we have to do it like this and that. So also the parents and the family can learn from them, then kind of like an influence from the children. So this is why I thought, okay, let's go with the younger generation.
yeah, and that also sort of feeds in with civil rights as well, with Black Lives Matter. I mean, people say it's often a generational thing, which largely it is. I think generally the more these ideas are pushed, the more that generations of people become aware to them and adhere to them. But I think these movements that have happened recently, also for women's rights, I think we're still seeing a lot of people being opposed to them as well. I think you can't have it as a given that these movements are all great and it's going to be a generational thing. So I think we need to make a real effort in schools to make sure these. I mean, I don't know actually how like Black Lives Matter and stuff is being explained in schools. Actually, I'd be interested to hear about it.
Yeah, there is a thing called in the UK. It's called the Black Curriculum, and they try to get children aware of this unconscious bias they have, and also how to introduce Black Lives Matters and racism in schools. And it's all through creative stuff, actually, through music, through just incorporating more creative things in history and really teach about that stuff. So go to art galleries, for example, and you see there are no like people in the paintings other than slaves or something like that. And then the children start to ask questions, and they're like, okay, why is it actually like that? And so it's really interesting how to introduce it to children. Yeah. But I'm not an expert in that. I mean, I kind of like scratched it, but yeah, I don't really have much experience with that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely better than when sort of we were school, because it's like 10, 15, 20 years ago when we were in school and we were really young. There was all those things about, especially in the UK, about the Industrial Revolution, Britain ruling the world. And it's also like it's like a good thing, isn't it? Like that's how they say it. They're like, look what we did. We got these spices and we got cotton from here, and we were businessmen sort of thing. And then you grow up and you're like, oh, we did that in pretty shady way. Like it was pretty bad.
That's quite interesting with your mapping exercise probably too. I mean, you could also, Sophia, like do some kind of mapping about that, I guess, or...
Yeah, for sure. And like ways of thinking about that in the future. I think it's been really good though to see like movements like to change that, especially with like this. I've been in the process of getting my British passport at the moment, but looking at how, like, I'm fortunate that I've lived here for most of my life, so it's quite easy for me to get it. But so if my dad wanted to get a passport, he would have to take the British like history test thing, and I think that's being like really challenged, and like things like that are being like pulled apart now, and like I think everyone's realizing that that's like we need to change that, and that's all of these kind of, you know, how things are being taught, and even down to you know, in like all fields. But yeah, no, it's good. I think this is, I hope this will be like a time where like groups of people and like communities can come together and be a bit more resilient for wanting change.
Yeah, I was just thinking about agreeing with Valentina, thinking about your mapping thing. I actually like I love your idea of mapping, because I think it can be applied in so many different aspects. Like you can do literal world mapping of how colonizing the world has had an impact, and all those different things of the development of human beings. But also you can make it very personal, and, you know, have a mapping of you in lockdown, for example, and how emotionally draining that's been, how you've developed ideas, how having a bit of space, you know, for yourself has changed you and changed the way you work. I mean, I did a project on, it was like memory and trauma, and it looked a lot at dictatorships in South America, and especially in the Nazi regime in Europe as well. And that involved a lot of stuff like that, and how these communities are the way they are, especially in dictatorships in South America. I mean, I just watched, there's a Rolling Stones documentary on Netflix about them in South America, and it all culminates in them doing their first ever show in Cuba, which was quite emotional for a lot of people, because there's a lot of people in Cuba, especially with the regimes they've had, that could have never imagined you would get to so freely listen to the Rolling Stones, let alone they'd be in person in front of you. And it'd be so interesting to sort of dive in deeper about how that has affected the development of art, culture in these places on a broader scale. So, Sophia, that's, you know, you've got a million things we're asking you to do here. You can do what you want, but
yeah, no, it's interesting. It is interesting to think about. Yeah, mapping is such a broad thing as well, and as well like open-ended, but can be so personal and intimate as well.
And it's really important. I don't know, it's just important to see all the connections and all the things that are linked within one thing. It's for design, you start with mapping, kind of like, so it's really important.
It's also about, you know, being able to navigate back to spaces of someone you once were. I know a lot of people talk about mental health in that capacity of, if you keep a journal or a diary, you can actually look back at maybe some of the more difficult and challenging times and be like, oh, I was there, but look how far I've come. You know, you might not feel you're all the way there, but you've mapped out, and it doesn't have to be mapping in the sense of doing it in an artistic sense. You know, you writing a journal is still kind of mapping out that development of yourself. And to be honest, it's not exclusive to mental health. I think you should map out anything or you know, journal anything you do, because it can feel like a real slog, can't it, when you like working in a direction, you're like, you don't see any gain because you're with your own thoughts every day. You know, someone might be like, oh wow, your style has changed massively, or you've become much better at that. But when you're on the slog and it's just you and, you know, your idea, it's hard to recognize your own development, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
That's something you recognised over the course of your time studying in Edinburgh?
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, definitely. Kind of, I feel like I've grown. I feel like I was such a different person probably when I started off, and it's such like a long period of time as well, of 5 years. But yeah, I think it would be nice to think about other ways of like seeing growth. Like maybe we'll look back at like this video in like a couple of years time and be like, oh, that's how I was thinking and feeling then. So I think, yeah, it's been nice. I think it's been nice as well, like seeing people's like records or like recordings during this lockdown and how they've like utilized their time. And I think, yeah, looking back at this time in a couple of years will be interesting.
I mean, I hope that you guys, I'm set to speak to, you're the first two. Well, I spoke to some people before, but I already knew them. But you're the first two, and then I've got like I think 6 more groups of 2 people. So my main ambition for this is that some of you, doesn't have to be the people you talk to now, it could be other people you see, but 2 of you at least take something forward, and I see you working on something, or at the very least supporting each other, because it was so nice when we got the 5 people together last year, and it was a bit different because we actually met in person and spent a whole day together. But 2 of them have like met up. One lives in Paris, but they've met up with each other and like all cool stuff like that. And then another one I've worked with a lot since in the past year. So that was like my greatest achievement of that. I just was happy that I could be involved in. Maybe they'll get married and I'll be at their wedding saying it was me. But yeah, that's my hope for this, because that's all I could do at this time. I wish I could give you guys a more of an experience to remember, and I wish I could give you grants of money to help you, but I'm not there yet. I'm not that guy yet.
That's already grant enough that we can this opportunity is so amazing. I don't know.
Well, in 2 years, hopefully, like Sophia said, we'll look back at this and be like, that's where we start. That's how we made £10 million. Start there. And hopefully we'll be better at pumping our funds back into the world. Hopefully we won't all just be in yachts, and we need to we check each other. Valentina, don't buy that Ferrari.
No, I
You
won't.
used to care about education and you keep buying Ferraris. Not okay. Thank you guys. Is there anything else you want to add? I mean, when afterwards I'm gonna I'll make sure I do a post on our website where you guys can actually put up a bit about your work and actually some images and video and stuff. But if there's anything else you want to say now, you don't have to.
It's lovely to be part of this. I feel like I'm part of a community, and like that's meeting you guys. It's really nice to have spoken.
It's really nice, and thanks for contacting us. Like I never thought that anybody else outside from the university would look at our projects and like my project, and I was really like surprised. I'd
really recommend doing it for like other universities, because at first when I was like, it was easier last year because I just went out and I had all these like little flyer things and I just met loads of people and it felt social, and I was kind of dreading it. I was like, I'm gonna have to go through like 200 websites now. I made a big spreadsheet. I like found all the websites, put it in a spreadsheet, and I was like, here we go. And I went through and just clicking. And then by the end I was actually like, I felt like I was so inspired. I was like, wow, like so much like amazing stuff I've seen. So I recommend you do the same. It's a bit of a slog. You don't have to make a spreadsheet, but give it a go, have a look around. But anyway, I'll get this online probably in the next couple of days. And welcome to this weird new community, online community. Hopefully we can stay in touch and do something in the future.
Yeah. Let's catch up where this is going to. It would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, thank you, and I'll keep you guys posted with everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.